Hi, welcome to Relationships and Astrology, Love and the Planet series. I'm Armand Diaz in New York.
And I'm Margaret Gray in Dublin.
And we're looking at the week that begins on February 27th and goes through March 5th. Margaret, what do you have to say about this week?
Well, my goodness, we're just coming out of the solar eclipse, of course. So we finished the eclipse season for this first season. And really, the energies change completely this week. I mean, it's very interesting because the beginning of the week is much more really active. And then kind of as we go on, it really goes into much more of this emotional, feel spiritual connection, very Piscean. So we're back a little bit to the kind of energies we had, about a month ago. If you remember, we had all those Pisces energies. So I think in relationship, the beginning of the week is much more an active, dynamic time in relationships. And then it really goes into that very much soul and spiritual connection later in the week. Or what are your thoughts, Armand?
We typically come out of a new moon, solar eclipse or not. We typically come out of it a little bit slowly. We sort of wake up to the new lunar cycle. But this month we have hot aspects. We have the moon is going to go into Aries right away on Monday. We have got, actually, it goes in fairly late on Monday. It's in Pisces in the morning. We have Mars is opposite Jupiter. It's a spark type of aspect that gets things going. And then through Tuesday and Wednesday with the moon in Aries, very active. It's a quick start, and a little bit of like when you jump out of bed, sort of like you've been startled out of bed, and you're acting, you're moving, or something like that. What was that noise? And maybe not entirely sure what's going on. I think that is. I think last week we cautioned people not to be too reactive, and I think that sort of sticks through the beginning of this week.
Yes, I think always in relationships, it's always better to be kind of a little cautious rather than like to err on the side of caution rather than to, just jump in and think, oh, it won't matter. Because of course, what we do has consequences. How we behave with loved ones does have consequences. And so it's worth thinking about that, because sometimes when the planets are so dynamic, we don't really give that much thought. We just think, oh, it'll be fine. But it's not necessary. It depends on individuals' charts. So if one person has a chart that's very watery, and the other person has a chart that's very fiery, it may not impact the fiery person as much, but it certainly will impact the watery person. And
Isn't it amazing how I don't mean to interrupt. Isn't it amazing that we do with loved ones? It's just like, I really feel I'm going to just be a jerk to you today because I love you and you'll be there, and it's it's not really the best thing to do, and it does have consequences over time. But sometimes we feel we can get away with it. On the matter of a bad day, I'm going to take it out on you.
yes, it's like we kind of forget. It's almost as we go on in a relationship, we forget that sense of actually they're a separate person, and that really it's basically that sense of respect. And, I remember reading surveys on what helped keep couples together over the long term. And the big one, of course, love is the main one. But also, as well as love, was learning ways to respect each other that kind of resonates with each other. And that's so important. And we don't kind of really teach kids that very much. So, and, sometimes just in a casual way, but it really makes quite a big difference. So going into the week, of course, then we have Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces on Wednesday. So this is really very powerful because it's really that a time to connect deeply on a soul level, on an emotional level, very much a time to really visualize. If somebody's not in a relationship, maybe to visualize what would you like in a relationship. And even as a couple, it might be a very good time to sit together and spend some time thinking, what are our dreams together? What do we really hope to create together? And also, if you believe in past lives, to really maybe think about, how have I known my partner before, my loved one before? What is our spiritual connection?
With Venus so close to her station to retrograde, which is happening on Saturday, it is especially a time for going inward, thinking about, even as a couple, going inward and thinking about those things and working them out, or just experiencing. They have to work on anything, just experience them and maybe talk about them and maybe share some of that stuff. I agree entirely that there's a real soul level type of feeling to this. Importantly, though, the other side of the coin is that if we're not on the soul level, if we're sort of thinking about things in a more ego perspective, then we have to be careful again about projection. And I think that would say certainly, it really goes through this entire week. Sun conjunct Neptune, you can turn the other person. I always say it's like, you can be the princess in the tower that needs rescuing, the knight in shining. All of those kinds of things can come up when you have Sun Neptune interactions. We can really make, we can make heroes and demons out of ordinary folk. And, it's kind of fun sometimes, but it's also, it's not necessarily the most realistic. Even at the soul level, sometimes, those connections, we feel them, and, we feel them in a heart way. And then, the way we turn that into our everyday reality can sometimes be a little disappointing. You just stop at the store and pick up some milk, is it just doesn't seem like it's part of the grand drama that Sun Neptune implies.
Yes, because it can be also about putting people on a pedestal. And so when we put somebody on a pedestal, of course, at some point they're going to come down, because we're all humans. So we're spirits in human form, but we are in a human life. So as you say, we do need to go and get the milk and do our laundry and wash the dishes and do all of those kind of mundane things. And I think another thing to be careful of with Sun Neptune are addictions of any kind, including codependency, including, if both are kind of into substances or whatever, to really be careful, because it's like the boundaries are much thinner that day. So we kind of resonate and rebound off each other. So to think of the most limited version, the most expansive, but it is a lovely day to do something creative together, like maybe to dance or to sing or to write poetry or to do something connected. And I just wanted to mention a post that we posted on our Facebook page on Valentine's Day that people might like to go back and see, about this couple who had been separated for 65 years and then reunited and now finally have got married, which I think really resonates with that concept of a spiritual partnership, a spiritual relationship. And also to let our listeners know that, of course, we're going to be running our 1-year course on the emerging role of spiritual relations, the astrology of spiritual relationships, starting in September. And if they'd like to enroll, they will need to have done the 6-week course, one of which is starting on March 12th. So just to put that in. So it's certainly something we're both quite interested in and we'd like to develop with people.
And then we get to the end of the week, and we have Venus stationing to retrograde. We'll talk about that in a separate video, but that's a big one. Very much a time to reevaluate and reassess in relationship. And coincidentally, at the same time, Mercury conjuncts Neptune in Pisces. Don't even trust yourself. You might say anything. It's a great energy. Actually, it is actually a great energy for tuning in, meditation, tuning into other realities. In this reality, though, it's a very slippery energy.
It is, although it can be quite nice in terms of maybe tuning into loved ones if there is a good connection. And of course, always being able to separate, is this me or is this the other person? But, certainly if it's a long distance relationship, it might be a nice way to be able to connect on a heart level. So there is that advantage. But yes, to be careful, what are we tuning into? Because we could be tuning into a multitude of radio stations that may not be quite what we expect. So I agree with you.
So it's we're coming into the first quarter moon, and by the time we get to Sunday, Mars is in a nice aspect to Saturn. It's a more dynamic, active time. The moon is going to be, it will have moved into Gemini. It's going to go a little bit more towards, we're going to dry out a little bit after the Piscean week. And so maybe the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, is a good time to sort of just maybe chill a little bit, just, sort of socialize and get out and maybe have some fun and, be playful. And, after all the things that have happened over the last couple of weeks, maybe to just sort of enjoy yourself a little bit.
Yes, because Saturn helps to make things concrete. So maybe just to go out for a meal, actually do something concrete, make a fixed arrangement, go and meet some other friends. So really quite a week. If we look at it overall, it's really a week where there's a lot of, it can be a very spiritual week, a very imaginative week, a very connected week, but there could be some confusion around and, just to be careful not to be a victim in it, not to kind of, lose oneself in it. And then towards the weekend, as you say, maybe to do something fun together.
Sounds like a plan.
Great. See you next week, Armand. Bye-bye.
Bye.